All right, welcome to another episode of Bet the Beach Live. My name is Chris the Turk, and I am pumped that you could join me here today. We got a bunch to talk about. AVP season over. We're now turning our attention to the Beach Pro Tour, turning our attention to World Champs. We got the Newport Elite coming up, although when you look at the entry list, can we really call it an elite? We can talk about that. We got the four-man coming up. They announced the four women's teams tonight, and there's a twist there, a new twist. So we're going to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about that with you. What else we got? We have a Joao Pessoa recap. It was a big weekend in Brazil for the Brazilians. It was a bigger weekend in Brazil for the American women. Not so much for the American men, although that kind of has been a trend here over the course of the last year or so, I guess I would say. We have the Joao Pessoa Elite ongoing. I have a replay up here over my left shoulder. Play wrapped up here about an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago now. We are pool play complete on the men's side. We have the second round of pool play yet to come here tomorrow morning. On the women's side from Rio, an awesome venue in Brazil. And the stakes are high as far as World Championships qualification goes. We'll talk World Championships qualification here as the night goes on. We have a Norceca finish, a very important Norceca finish for Miles Partain and Andy Benesh from last weekend. We got that to talk about. We're going to take your phone calls here. The phone number, 978-254-1707, 978-254-1707 if you want to hop in, chat beach volleyball, talk anything, really. I'm here to talk anything. We're just going to hang out and talk some beach volley. What else we got coming up here tonight? I do want to talk about an article that came out about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, courtesy of the Substack All Volleyball, authored by Larry Hamill. He's a Chicago area journalist, I believe. Hopefully I'm getting that right, Larry, from Chicago. And Larry and I have gotten into it a little bit online over the years. Larry has been a fairly open critic of the AVP League's new management at times. That said, he came out with a very interesting article here a couple weeks ago that had some important quotes, I think, from AVP Commissioner Robert Corvino. Gives us a little bit of insight into what the 2026 AVP League season is going to look like, and really the decision-making, the logic behind the decision-making from Commissioner Robert Corvino. So we'll get to that as well here over the course of the next, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. If you want to hop in the chat, please do that as well. I'll have that up on the screen throughout the course of the night. Also, taking your Instagram questions. Let's start with one, because I think it'll lead into one of the conversations we're going to have here tonight. And this is from one of my favorites earlier today in response to an Instagram story. And, of course, follow Bet the Beach on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's at Bet the Beach. From my guy, Fantasy Stats Guru, one of my favorite people to interact with online, saying, do Miles and Andy need to force the option onto jump setting style to be elite? And it's a great question, Fantasy Stats Guru, because Miles and Andy came on the scene a couple of years ago in the middle of the first year of Olympic qualification for 2024. So that would have been the summer of 2023. And Miles and Andy, I think, had 3 medals of 3 colors, if I remember correctly. Ostrava, Stade, and I forget what the other one was, to be honest with you. It could have been Paris, Hamburg, something like that. And at the time, they were new to the scene, and people were psyched. They played well. They had a lot of good results there. As I said, they were on the podium over and over again. I think Montreal, they had a good podium finish, too. I think I was there, so I should know it. And they qualified for the Olympics easily. Came out of the Olympics with, boy, I don't remember now. It was probably a 9th, I think. I know they broke pool. Maybe it was a 5th for Miles and Andy. I think they did. I think Chase and Miles took a 9th playing Mole and Sarum in the first round. And Andy Benesh, Miles Partain might have taken a 5th there. And since then, the results, I don't think, have been what they would want them to be for Miles and Andy. So far this season, they have come away with a couple of 5ths, a couple of 9ths. And Miles and Andy right now, if it wasn't for that Norceca finish, on the outside looking in for World Champs qualification. Now, they did qualify in Norceca there. They did win the Norceca, which means they get the Continental Cup. And so I had it written down here what Miles and Andy had to finish, but I have since lost it, so no big deal. That said, the question being from Fantasy Stats Guru, do they need to force the jump set in the option? Well, if you watched the match earlier today, where Miles and Andy beat in 2 sets, but 2 incredibly long sets against Droget and Quintero of Chile. By the way, that team has gotten very, very good. Excellent match earlier between Andy and Miles and Chile's second team there. That one, boy, I'm getting really sidetracked here for you guys. I think it was like a 30-31 first set. 33-31 first set, 26-24 second set. Partain Benesh beating Quintero and Droget. Honestly, it was the option play of Miles Partain that almost cost him that first set. Miles Partain forcing a couple of balls into the block of Droget there. And so do they need to force it? No, I don't think that's what's going on with Miles Partain and Andy Benesh. Honestly, I don't know what's going on with the two of them. I think Andy Benesh is one of the best blockers in the world. I think he continues to play like that. I think I'd like to see him continue to serve aggressively. I saw a lot today where he was taking a little bit off that serve, going with that jump float, playing a little bit more passive from that service line. And you're not going to get any service pressure really from Miles Partain, so you need to get it, I think, from Andy Benesh in order for that team to be successful. And I think when they were new and people weren't expecting it, I think they had a lot of success. And I think now people kind of had the book on Miles Partain and Andy Benesh. So do I think they need to force that style of play? No, I definitely don't think they do. You got to remember, too, Miles Partain, 23 years old. Been playing internationally now for so long that you forget how young he is. And I think he's going through some growing pains right now. So I think Miles and Andy are going to be good if they stay together. I would expect them to at least through 2028 in Los Angeles, although you never know how these things work out. Andy Benesh now 30, so he's looking at a couple more Olympic quads here. Does he make a move and change partners with Miles Partain? I don't think so. I think they stay together. And I think they're going to continue to be the best player in the United States, or best team, right through then. Now, that said, you get some shakeups. I don't know. We'll see. That said, and we'll get to it in a little bit here, Chase Budinger and Miles Evans today having a statement win over USA's Molenstrom. I say all that to say this. Let's look back before we look forward. Let's go back 1 week ago, Joao Pessoa, and we'll start with the USA women. An All-American finals in Joao Pessoa. It was an All-American and Brazilian semifinals. Kelly and Molly, Therese and Megan. You had Rebecca and Carol, and you had, of course, AP and Duda. So in that semifinal, Therese and Megan, AP and Duda absolutely smoked them in that first set. I mean, it wasn't even really close. And I think I had bet on AP and Duda at the time, so I was, not that I wasn't rooting for the USA, but I'm rooting for my money, of course. And I thought AP and Duda had that over Therese and Megan. And it was really interesting. AP and Duda won that first set. And then Therese and Megan came back, won that second set, goes to a third set, and I doubled down and I bet more money on AP and Duda because I got them at I got AP and Duda at a plus money number after Therese and Megan smoked them in that second set. And Therese Cannon, in my mind, was the story for America in that one. The way she was able to change the game with her block is something that when you have the defense of Megan Kraft behind you, I think you don't need to be spectacular in order to get some good wins. I think Megan Kraft, one of the best players in America now for sure. I think I'd draft her first or second. I might draft her first or second overall, men's and women's, and I said that before. But Therese Cannon changed that game with her block. The thing I'll say about that game, and Therese struggled a little bit at in the serve receive, and then in the finals against Kelly and Molly, she really struggled in serve receive. And AP and Duda didn't serve her. Not really. I mean, they served her a little bit, but they served Megan Kraft a lot. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the heck are we doing, AP and Duda? And of course, I was rooting for AP and Duda at the time. Therese struggled in the serve receive. If I'm serving the two of them, I'm serving Therese Cannon every single time. So I was surprised to see them go at Megan Kraft there a little bit with how Therese had kind of struggled a little bit from the service line, and again more so, and then in the final. So hindsight maybe 2020 there. But as I said, Therese changed that game with her block and beat the best team in the world in AP and Duda. So all the credit to Therese and Megan. They are now looking at a string of second places internationally and also domestically, taking a second in Manhattan Beach earlier this year in August. In 2024, so Cannon and Kraft got together in 2023, fall 2023, Last year, they took a second in Stade, they took a second in Rio, and they took a second in the all-important Beach Pro Tour Finals, all important for money specifically, not really for anything else. And then in 2025, in the beginning of the season, Quintana Roo, they took a second, and then again here, falling to Kelly and Molly in the finals in Joao Pessoa. So that's 5 seconds in Elite 16s or Beach Pro Tour Finals over the course of the last year and a half for Therese and Megan. In my mind, Therese and Megan, despite the loss to Kelly and Molly, are the second best team in America at the moment, and they're playing like it. Although, we'll get to Kelly and Molly in a minute. They played like it for one particular day, one particular afternoon, one particular match last Sunday. And we'll get to them in a minute because they were absolutely spectacular. So I think Therese and Megan are playing well. I think Therese and Megan are well poised here to make a good, deep World Champs run. And we will get to another question from Fantasy Stats Guru here in a minute, because he asked me a question specifically about the combined finishes of the women for World Champs. USA will qualify 4 teams on the women's side. Pretty clear who those 4 are going to be now, as qualification starts to wind down. Only 2 more events, the Rio event right now, and then one in Veracruz in Mexico, either next week or the following. So I say all that to say this, Therese and Megan playing very well. I think as we start to look towards 2028, I think that's a team that could qualify. I do think that team is a little limited by this, at the moment, serve-receive game of Therese Cannon. Now, Therese has gotten a lot better over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Therese is a great player. But I do think that, and it's hard when you're playing against or playing alongside a person like Megan Kraft that can do just about everything. So that's always going to be a tough look in comparison. But I do think that that is something, as we look towards that finals match with Kelly and Molly, that's something that certainly cost them that match with Kelly and Molly. It's the serve-receive game of Therese Cannon. So can they clean that up? Can they improve that a little bit as we start to look towards the qualification for 2028? Will they stay together? I would imagine they would at this point. The thing on the women's side really is if you're a defender, Megan Kraft, defender and blocker. If you want to stay as a defender, who do you look to partner up with on the women's side for a blocker? Really, the blockers that are going to play at that highest level that have a chance, I think, in my mind, to qualify for the Olympics, it's a pretty short list. It's Taryn Brasher, who's not going to, at the moment, split up with Kristen Nuss. It's Kelly Chang, obviously, already qualified for 2 Olympics with 2 different partners. She's going to be in the mix there for 2028. And Therese Cannon's right there in that next tier down alongside, Lexi and Julia, alongside a couple other players that are really kind of still developing and on their way up to get into that conversation. So congratulations to Therese and Megan for another excellent second-place finish. Let's turn our attention now to Kelly and Molly. Kelly and Molly getting together at the beginning of the season here in 2025. Molly Shaw took medal of each color at the end of last season in challenge events with then partner Tony Rodriguez. First, second, and third in 3 straight challenge events to end last season. So when Kelly and Molly got together, wasn't a surprise for me. And I saw written by, I think, Larry Hamill as well, that he had seen some criticism of Molly Shaw as a partner choice for Kelly Chang. You didn't ever hear that from me. I think Molly Shaw is an excellent player, and I think Molly Shaw's gotten better and better. And when it comes to the play of Molly Shaw as it relates to the last few weeks. It was Molly's first medal at the elite level, and it was a gold, and it was against some very, very high-level competition, beating Rebecca and Carol, who in my mind are the second and a half best Brazilian team. They're right up there with Tamela and Victoria. So the question is I don't know what the question is, to be honest with you. Kelly and Molly. Let's get back to Kelly and Molly. So Kelly and Molly get their first medal. They get their first gold medal. It's in a gold medal at the highest level. Molly Shaw proved it. The reason that Kelly and Molly won that game, there's 2 reasons. One is Kelly Chang did Kelly Chang things, and she changed the game with her option balls, changed the game at the net with her block. And that will get you far. It won't get you all the way. What gets you all the way is when your defender behind you is everywhere and your defender behind you just keeps reaching deeper and deeper into her bag of tricks. And Molly Shaw in the semifinals against Rebecca and Carol, and then in the finals against Therese and Megan, just kept reaching into that bag and kept finding a sharper cut shot or a deeper poke or a sharper cut shot the other way. And it was absolutely fun to watch, spectacular, very, very happy for her. Molly Shaw went unconscious in that game, digging everything. I mean, behind the block of Kelly Chang, it's certainly a nice block to defend behind. But as far as the side-out game goes, Molly Shaw was spectacular in that finals against Therese and Megan. And as I said, she kept reaching deeper and deeper into that bag of shots, and she kept finding sand. So Kelly and Molly take gold, as you see there on the podium, top of the podium, Kelly and Molly taking an elite 16 gold medal on the women's side. AP and Duda ended up winning in straight sets against Rebecca and Carol. AP and Duda take a bronze medal in Joao Pessoa. And AP and Duda are back, and they're back in a big way. You saw Anna Patricia doing Anna Patricia things, digging balls with her feet, and she didn't need to, getting points. And I said it online, and I got a good response because my wife, Lindsay, frustrates the heck out of her because AP is the kind of player that will do it. And I don't know if it's taunting. I guess it is kind of taunting, and that's part of the reason why her and Brandy got into it in that iconic finals match. Eiffel Tower in the background, AP digging balls with her shoulder, digging balls with her chest, digging balls with her arm, digging balls with her head. And AP's the kind of player that can play with her food and get away with it because she's that good. And I got in a conversation. We're sitting here at the Tiki Bar last week watching some matches. And the question was best overall individual players on the women's side, just individual. And for me, for my money, number one overall, the number one pick, pretty easy, is Duda Lisboa. And I'm not sure I'm going with anybody except for AP at number two. I mean, Kristen Nuss is in that conversation for 2 and 3, I think. So it's her or AP at 2 and 3. Yeah, I think that Duda and AP are easily probably two of the top 3 best players, individual players in the world, and they're on the same team, which is why they won a gold in Paris. It's why they'll be the favorites to win a gold coming up here in Los Angeles in a couple of years. They're a fun team to watch, and when they're at their best, and they can play with their food and get away with it. So they took a bronze. They ended up losing to Therese and Megan, but I would say that they are still a prohibitive favorites to win world champs here in about a month and a half, and still the best team in the world until otherwise noted. On the men's side, Evandro and Arthur, one of my favorite international teams, actually now probably my favorite international team, took a gold. My second favorite international team, York de Groot, Stefan Bormans, Boom Boom, and de Groot, took a bronze. And congratulations to an excellent French team there. Ambassador, I should pronounce your name correctly, for an awesome run there to get their names right up on that cut line for world champs. An excellent finish, and then they come into the qualifiers a couple of days ago in Rio and flame out in the first round of the qualifiers. So tough for them to see that after an awesome run at a silver medal in an elite. But Evandro and Arthur, they win gold in Brazil. It's what they do. They did it last year. They did it this year. I think Evandro and Arthur were 2 of the top 3 as far as individual players and aces in Joao Pessoa. That service pressure. Very important. We know Evandro's been the best server in the world for a couple of years now, and when Arthur's able to contribute there and Arthur's able to side out the way he can do, they're a dangerous team. So they're going to be one of my favorites internationally. They've now moved into that number 1 spot in Brazil. That said, another Brazilian team, it was Andre and George a couple of years ago in Paris, the number 1 team in Brazil. They've since split up. George now partnered with Simon Barbosa. I love that player. I watched him beat... Who would they beat? I think it was Amman and Helvig, or it was Norway. One of those 2 teams, one of the best teams in the world a week ago in an awesome match there. Simon Barbosa, a great player. Been playing for a long time. Love the partnership there with George. They took a 9th in Joao Pessoa. And it's very weird. One last thing on Joao Pessoa. Both Norway and Sweden in the tournament, neither one of them were in the semis. Sweden took a 9th, Norway took a 5th. Very strange to see Norway and Sweden in the tournament at the highest level and neither of them in the semis. So something to keep an eye on there. The teams from Scandinavia having combined one of their worst results in a while, but a 9th and a 5th, a lot of teams in the world will be very happy to have that as a result. Just a reminder, you can call in at any point. The phone number is right there, 978-254-1707. We are taking phone calls throughout the course of the night. You can also hop in the chat. I got that up here on the screen if you want to ask questions as we go live. Let's move to Rio. Let's talk Rio. Qualification started a couple of days ago. We had pool play all up throughout the course of the day today. Men's pool play done. 3 teams on the men's side. 2 of them survive. 1 of them in main draw. 1-2 barbecue, go home. And it's an important loss for Cam Shock and James Shaw. But let's start at the beginning pool play here. Evans and Buttinger in Pool A alongside Molen Saram, alongside Czechia's second team, and alongside a good German team of Henning and Wust. Evans and Buttinger winning their first matchup. I think it was yesterday, 21-14, 21-10. A great result there for Evans and Buttinger, putting themselves in the driver's seat. You get that win, and you know you're at least moving on to the round of 18. They did so yesterday to move on to today. Miles Partain to Andy Benesh. They're in a pool with Switzerland's Krattinger and Dillier. They're in a pool with Bormans and De Groot. As I just said, one of my favorite teams. And that team I was just talking about, Droget and Quintero. Partain and Benesh needed to win that first round match, in my mind, in order to win their pool against Switzerland. They did not. 13-21, 18-21. Partain and Benesh struggled in that first match yesterday. We go to Cam Shock and James Shaw. They're in a pool with Steven van de Velde and Alexander Brouwer from the Netherlands, Georgia and Saman, who I just talked about, and Austria's Hammerberg and Berger. Cam and James, in my mind, needed to beat Austria in that first round in order to have a chance, because I do not think they're as good of a team as van de Velde and Brouwer. I do not think they're as good of a team right now as George and Simon. Cam and James losing in 3 sets, 21-16, 18-21, 15-10 to Austria. Led them to a evening matchup tonight just a couple hours ago with Van de Velde and Brouwer. Win and move on to the round of 18, lose and go home. What happened? We'll get there in a minute. Okay, we move on to today. I think it was this morning. Quiggle and Loreen. Corinne Quiggle, Chloe Loreen came in through the qualifiers, won. They beat a good Brazilian team in 3 sets. They're moving on to the second round of pool play tomorrow morning. Lexi, Julia beat a really good Brazilian team, Rebecca and Carol. That one in 3 sets. That might be Lexi and Julia's best result on the international stage. I'd have to look back, but I do think that might be their best international result for Lexi and Julia, coming off a couple of great weeks, winning the AVP League. So Lexi and Julia playing some of their best volleyball. And an important win for them, too, because they are on the cut line right now for World Championships. Lexi and Julia needing to add a good result to their 6 results for World Championships qualification. They got it started in a good way, beating, in my mind, Brazil's second-best team and beating a team that's probably a top 15 team in the world in Rebecca and Carol, putting themselves in the driver's seat for winning their pool. 1 pool play match left tomorrow morning. Cannon and Kraft in Pool E beat Svarlova and Stoklova, Marie-Sarah Stoklova in straight sets, 21-13, 21-13. Therese and Megan moving on to their second pool play matchup in the driver's seat. Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw, a 3-set win, 21-12, 20-22, 15-13 over a good Brazilian team. And then the matchup of the day, excuse me, Mia girl, hey, enough. Sorry, got the dogs barking. Chasing a squirrel, probably. You know how it goes. All right, so the matchup of the tournament right now. Let's talk about this one. Earlier today, Norway. Best team in the world still? I would say so. Actually, pretty easily the best team in the world right now. For a while, well, boy, that's a hard question right now. Amund and Helvig, Sweden. Molen Saram, Norway. Amund and Helvig won the Olympics. Amund and Helvig probably over the last 2 years have a better resume. Molen Saram over the last 8 years have the better resume. So who are you taking right now? Who you got? Let me know in the chat. I would be interested to know what you got there. If you like Norway or if you like Sweden as the best team in the world on the men's side. But we're going to have world champs here coming up to decide there. In either case, one of the top 2 best teams in the world, Evans and Buttinger. Evans and Buttinger right now on the cut line for world champs. So let's take a look at it. And also, good comment there by DOC Self. Lexi and Julia had an insane comeback in the second set to take it to the third set. Awesome game there by Lexi and Julia. Lexi and Julia, as I said, playing some of their best volleyball that they've played. Miles Evans and Chase Buttinger coming into this tournament, 23rd in the world. The cut line for world champs qualification is around 25 teams because the continental qualifiers, each continent sends some teams. Honestly, I heard Kyle Friend and, I'm blanking on her name now. Oh, she's excellent too. Let me know in the comments on the excellent VBT commentator who's in Brazil right now with Kyle Friend doing the commentary. Boy, it's going to kill me that I don't know her name. In any case, Kyle, and you know what? Let me look it up. I got this right now. Denise Austin. I didn't even have to look it up. I didn't look it up that quickly. You know I didn't look it up. Denise Austin. I'm glad that I was able to pull that. Denise Austin does an awesome job doing work for VBTV, so that's why I'm very, very happy I was able to get her name. Kyle and Denise talking about World Champ qualification, and even they don't have the entire picture as far as the South American Continental qualification, couple of teams, Africa, women's side only sending 2 of the 4 teams because he beat out at top 250. Very, very, very complicated. Let me simplify it for you a little bit. Roughly, the top 25 teams, 20 to 23, 25, 27, 25 is really the number, qualify. On the men's side, coming into this tournament, Cam Shaw and James Shaw, with 6 results, that's what you have to provide is 6 results, 6 your best results, sitting at number 26 right now, 3,160 points, but really tied for 25th with the Grimalds of Chile. So Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans needing, thank you, Denise Austin, William Barnhill, I got that, Denise Austin, exactly right. So Evans and Buttinger needing a good result here in order to dump one of their bad results, move up, and just comfortably get into that World Champ qualification. And then they find themselves in a pool with Mullen Sarum. They find themselves in a pool. Who else is in Pool A here on the men's side? Henning and Wust, and that second team from Czechia there. So Evans and Buttinger probably looking pretty good, even if they lost that match in Norway, to still move on to the round of 18. And Evans and Buttinger come out 21-16, 24-22, and they have, without question, their best result on the international stage. Their best result on any stage. Their best win of their careers have Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans. And this comes on the heels of a Manhattan Beach Open championship. It comes on the heels of a very good finish in Hermosa. And Chase and Miles, although many would have thought, Olympics and now it's downhill for that partnership, they continue to get better and better. And I said it recently, I forget where I said it, but that Miles Evans had started to earn the respect, I think, of people that had doubted him for years and years. And Miles is really in that conversation now for top 3 or 4 best American defenders. And his ability to side out is it has become a real weapon for the two of them. And Chase continues to get better and better. Chase's option game, Chase at the net, service pressure from Chase. So Buttinger and Evans, a team that people continue to look past, I think even after the Olympic qualification, go out today and get their best result of their careers in a win over Norway, a team that they met in the round of 16 elimination round in Paris in the Olympics. Everybody looked at that matchup and said, thanks for coming, Miles and Chase. It really ended up being a thanks for coming, Miles and Chase, because they ended up losing that match, 21-16, whatever it was. I forget the second set score. But a good result for Chase and Miles there to even make it to the elimination rounds. And they came out today and they beat either the first or second best team in the world. Chase and Miles now pretty comfortably direct into the round of 12 here starting tomorrow afternoon. I think that would be all those matches on VBTV. We move on to the next American result, Partain Benesh versus Droget and Quintero. That match was spectacular. That's a Chile team that I hadn't really watched a lot of before today. And that first set, 33-31. Andy and Miles, fought off, I want to say they fought off 8 set points in that first set before having a couple set points of their own, fought off a couple more set points, and then ended up winning it 33-31. Miles Partain played well. Droget, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, played spectacular. You really had Miles' number at the net. Andy Benesh was spectacular. Andy Benesh side out. Andy Benesh hitting shots, swinging the ball. So Miles Partain and Andy Benesh really needing a win there. Now, that said, and we'll get to it in a minute here, they won the Norceca last week, so they're direct in anyways. But surprisingly, not a lot of results on the international stage. For Miles and Andy so far, in 2025 in the World Champs qualification. They started with a 9th in Brasilia, that's 300 points. Fifth on Ostrava, that's 380 points. A 13th in Stade, a disappointing result for them, I would say, 230. And then a 9th in Montreal for 300 points. Did not play in Joao Pessoa because they chose to go to Norceca, go the Continental qualification route, won the Continental qualification, and they are in World Champs, regardless of how they finish here with points. But interesting to see them not even in the top 32. And again, I shouldn't say again, first time I give it credit here. This is courtesy of Travis Merwitter, who does an awesome job, a better job than I ever will as far as statistics go. Keeping track of the numbers, keeping track of the points. Go to sandcast.com and look up his World Championship standings. He does a great job keeping up with that. He did it with the Road to Paris. He's doing it with the Road to Adelaide here for World Champs. But according to his numbers, they are not even in the top 32. By my numbers, 1,210 points coming into this match here. So they probably, I guess they needed a couple of good results here in order to get into the conversation, a couple of really good results. Either way, they're in, but I think they'd like to head into World Champs with a couple of good finishes here. So they got the win over Chile, which puts them into the round of 18 starting tomorrow. The final U.S. match here of the night, Schalke versus Van de Velde and Brouwer. This is a thanks for coming, Cayman James kind of match here, 21-18 and then 31-29. That second set, go back and watch that second set if you're a beach volleyball junkie like I am. An all-out second set for Cayman James. The final point, James lands on the ground, tries to rescue it, ends up on the ground. James Shaw, for the first time I saw today, had a real trouble in the serve-receive game. They kept serving James Shaw line, and he kept having trouble with it. They got some aces on James Shaw's line. I heard Came talking to him about it in the timeout. Just watch that line, watch that line. They at least got him out of system a bunch of times. Did Van de Velde and Brouwer. And like it or not, Van de Velde and Brouwer, really, really friggin' good team. Brouwer's been doing it for many, many, many years. And Steven Van de Velde has been an excellent player for a long time as well. So that's a team that I think Schalke lose to 9 times out of 10. It was going to take a pretty good upset for them to win that one. But that puts Came Schalke and James Shaw in a real problem scenario. They were sitting at 26th coming into this match, tied for 26, as I said, 3,160 points. And they will add, I'm not sure how many points they will add for what's that going to be, a 17th place finish here? No, a 19th place finish. Dropping out of pool play, 1-2 barbecue in the main draw. Hold please, there we go, I'm right back. I don't know how much you missed there, but we are back in the audio. And yeah, sorry about that. So tough result for Cayman James. Honestly, I'm sure you'll see them now on the entry list for the Veracruz. Hold please, give me 2 seconds. We got a battery issue that can be fixed. We are hoping. There we go. Alrighty. And we are back. Sorry about that. Trying out a new mic here full time and had a little battery issue with the receiver, but we worked it out. So all that said, I think I was telling you that Cayman James are in some trouble now. I do think that you will see them in that Veracruz Challenge entry list. We can pull that up right now. Buttinger and Evans are right now 5th seed going into that. Buttinger and Evans, sorry. Came Schalke and James Shaw. Great entry points for that, 2,060 entry points. They are 2 seed overall for that challenge event. So that challenge event will be Kim and James's last opportunity to add a good result and put themselves on the right side of the cut line. But don't trust me on that. Go to sandcast.com, check out Travis Merwitter's information. He's going to get you a much more specific result on exactly the number that they're going to need to get in that challenge event after pulling a 19th place finish here and losing today in Rio. Bunch of good matches tomorrow for you. The second round of pool play on the women's side, 8 a.m. Eastern time, so that's 5 a.m. Pacific time. You have Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw coming off that win in Joao Pessoa, taking on Valentina Guittardi and Rekha Orsi Toth. Now, I said earlier that two of my top three individual players that I would be drafting on the women's side include Duda, Kristen Nuss, and Anna Patricia right now. I do think that Valentina Guittardi is probably my number 4 pick. And I'm not sure that is going too far out on a limb, really, to be honest with you. I think those would be my top 4 picks if I was just drafting individual players on the women's side. So Valentina Guittardi has gotten better and better and better. So you get to see her against Kelly Cheng, a couple of explosive women with some firepower at the net, can really hammer a ball. And a couple of really good defenders there. So if you want to wake up a little bit early tomorrow morning and watch an awesome pool play matchup, it's Guittardi, it's Kelly Cheng, it's Italy versus the USA, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. In Pool E, Mueller-Tillman versus Cannon and Kraft. That's Cannon and Kraft versus a Germany team that's a top 6 or 8 team in the world. And Mueller and Tillman, they've been good for a while. They continue to be good. So I would recommend you check that one out. That's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific. Also at 10 a.m., Corin Quogo, Chloe Lorraine take on the Canadians, Mel and Brandy. So a couple of good pool play matchups. Also, Stam and Shkun back playing together. They got Rebecca and Carol in Pool B. That one at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then we start turning our attention to the round of 18. So let's see. Chase and Miles will be directly into the round of 12, which will start tomorrow afternoon sometime. Partain and Benesh, they're into the round of 18. They have a matchup. TBD right now, start time, but that's probably, let's do an estimate on time here for you. That is roughly going to be 1 o'clock, 2, 3, roughly like 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. That's a rough number. Partain and Benesh taking on a good Australian team, but a team that they really should beat, honestly. If they lose that one, I think it's not time to push the panic button for Miles Partain and Benesh, but it's certainly a time to start taking a look at what's going on with those two. Fantasy Stats Guru asked me earlier today, do they need to continue to focus on the option ball and the jump setting? I'm not sure that that's what they need to do. I think Miles Partain needs to side out better than he has, for sure. I think they need to make better decisions. Yeah, it's a partnership that I don't think we're in the panic button mode yet, but let's give it a month or two. See what they do over the course of the next couple months. So that's your Rio recap. I think throughout the course of that conversation, we got into the men's side of World Championship qualification as well. On the women's side, just very quickly, we'll go through it. 4 teams. I think the 4 women's teams that are going to qualify, it's pretty obvious. Taryn Clough, Kristen Nuss, they are in for sure. Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw in for sure. Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft in for sure. Lexi and Julia right now are sitting at 20 points, 3,400 points. They are 20th in World Champ qualification list. So they're comfortable, but not completely safe. A couple of wins, one more win in pool play tomorrow, and then maybe get into a 5th or a 9th place finish, and that'll put themselves in pretty good shape for qualification. So the 4 teams on the women's side, in my mind, for the USA, are pretty well locked up at this point. And I do have another question from Fantasy Stats Guru. And again, I got this from Instagram. Go to my story. I always give an opportunity to ask questions, or you can hop in the chat, or you can give me a call, 978-254-1707. The over-under, so Fantasy Stats Guru, him and I like to go back and give over-unders and gamble. The lowest USA Women's World Championship finish, and he put it at an over-under of 20th. Boy, I don't know the format of World Champs. I don't know if after pool play they'll cut it down to a field of 24, so then it'll go to 18. So let's call it an over-under of a 19th place finish if they go from I don't know if they'll go to 16 teams. Eventually at one point they'll go directly to 16 teams. So we'll put it an over-under of, what is that, a 17 finish. But he put it at 20, so let's save it 20. I think TKN are almost a lock, I would say, for a better than 20th finish. I would say the same for Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft, Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw. The consistency not there yet, match to match. If they play like they did a week ago, yeah, for sure they're there. If they play like they have over the course of the last month and a half, for sure. I think pretty comfortably you can. I would be willing to. I would take a bet. They would be an under 20th finish. And then the question is Lexi and Julia. I think they're the only dangerous one there for an over/under of 20th. So great question, Fantasy Stats Guru. I think you put the number at a right spot, especially now where we're talking about Lexi and Julia being the 20th best team in the world. So maybe Fantasy Stats Guru pick that number with that in mind. So great question. I'm glad that you're putting me on the spot here. Will Lexi and Julia finish with a better than 20th? That would mean probably a break pool for them and then a first round exit. And that's probably what I'm thinking. I think would be a good result for them, or a one elimination round and then an exit. But we've seen them have the ability to kind of go unconscious. And like I said before, split blocking team, they have a lot of firepower. They can really have, they make it hard for other teams that are more used to a conventional up and down style of volleyball. Lexi and Julia can bang a ball, they can option, they can split block. So you know what, Fantasy Stats Guru, put me on the record right now. The over-under for the lowest world champs finish on the women's side for the USA, we're setting the over-under at 20th. I am taking an under. I think TKN, Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft, Kelly Cheng, Molly Shaw, and Lexi and Julia will all do a 20th or better. So you can write that down. And if you disagree with me on this one, let me know. Maybe we can put a little money on it or put a little fun on it, something like that. But I'm taking the under. I think that USA will have 4 teams that qualify and 4 teams that do better than a 20th. Come Adelaide, come here, first week in November. Excellent question there by you, Fantasy Stats Guru. All right, we've got a couple more things to get to here today. I don't want this to go too long, and I've already been on for 45 minutes, so I apologize for that. Actually, I don't. We're having fun. We're chopping it up. We're talking beach volleyball. Very quickly, I already mentioned it. Andy, Benesh, Mouse, Partain win that Norceca a week ago, so they are in. That's kind of a backdoor route for world champs. Hey, they've exploited the system better than anybody. At least this time they have. This time around they have. They chose to skip an elite last week and go for the easier route to get that bid. The right move, for sure. They're into world champs. So Andy and Miles win that Norceca against relatively limited competition. So Andy and Miles are going to be in world champs here in a little bit. I wanted to get to very quickly the Newport. We have the Newport Elite coming up here in the first week in October. If you look at the entry list, it is thin for sure. The reason for that being World Champs qualification is over, so that does not count towards World Champs. World Champs is a month after it. So a lot of the best teams in America, or the best teams in the world, excuse me, will have already qualified or not qualified, and they're going to be looking to rest up and get healthy and get some practice reps in and get ready and get prepared for the biggest tournament of the year, which is World Champs, and flying for a lot of these teams from Europe halfway across the world to play in an elite that doesn't mean anything for World Champs might not be too attractive. So on the women's side, you got a lot of USA teams in there. You got USA's 4th, 5th, and 6th best teams in there, if not 7th best teams in there. You got a couple good teams on the men's side. I'm excited to see Alex Rangieri playing again on American soil. He played in the Hermosa Beach Open last fall. Did not play this year, but Rangieri is a guy that I think if you opened up the AVP to more of an international range of people, I think he's a guy that'd be interested. I've seen him make comments to that effect. So it'd be good to see him playing on U.S. soil again. He's a guy that we love to see for the Italian Federation. Good explosive blocker, fun guy, chops it up with you online. So Rangieri's in there in the mix with his partner Alfieri. And you got a couple other good men's teams in there. I think the Capagrossos are in there. But it's a relatively watered-down field for the Newport Elite. But I think a good sign to see beach volleyball at kind of the highest level being played on U.S. soil as we start turning our attention here to the Olympics in 2028. And that event goes right up through a Saturday, and the Sunday is the Newport 4-person. We'll call it a 4-person. How about that? we saw this last year. I think this is kind of famously, the story goes that Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser, the partnership that we know of now that had great success in the AVP this season, started with a conversation at last year's Newport Four-Man. Trevor playing with Phil. I forget who else was on that team. But Trevor playing with Phil might have had a little bit of conversation there about potentially playing together in 2025. That conversation led to a few more conversations and ultimately a partnership that was one of my favorites in 2025. On the men's side, I expect to see probably Phil back there. I expect to see Trevor back there. We don't know all the teams yet. I'm sure Taylor Crabb will be in the mix, but they did announce earlier today the women's team. And interestingly for me, you got 5 players, 4 teams. You have all of the best women's teams in the United States. And then on each team, you have an international player that is one of the best players in the world. So Team Slunks, obviously TKN sponsored by Slunks, so Kristen Taryn Cloth, Kristen Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss in there, Megan Kraft and Therese Cannon. Right there you have probably the 2 best teams, doubles teams in the USA on the same team. Team Slunks is going to be formidable, playing with German blocker Louisa Lippmann. Of course, Lippmann qualifying for the 2024 Olympics in Paris with the legend Laura Ludwig. Then you have, let's see here, Team Proveno. So you got Jeannie Rango, Megan Rice, Carly Lloyd out in the sand. We'd love to see it. Zolani Hodel playing with the 5th woman on that team, the aforementioned Anna Patrica, coming to America. I'm surprised that AP and Duda are coming to play 4s and not playing in the doubles, but I guess why play in it at that point? But if you're already coming, I'm not sure there, but get healthy, I think is probably the point there. And also, I would imagine that they'll play a little bit, but they probably won't play a lot in this tournament. But who knows? I don't know. But it's interesting as hell. I love the fact that we're seeing international players on these teams. Team Vea, Kelly Chang, Molly Shaw, Julia Dawn, and Leslie Denenberg. So I said the 2 best teams, and I think that's arguable. I think you can certainly make an argument for either of these 2 teams being in there also. But at least you have 4 of the top 4 USA women's teams all smushed together here. These playing with Daniela Alvarez from Spain, qualified for the 2024 Olympics, with Tanya Moreno, also still in TCU, last spring, winning this past spring, 2025 spring, winning the NCAA Division I Beach Volleyball Championships for TCU as team number 1. Danielle Alvarez, one of the better blockers on the international tour, and playing in the Newport 4-person. Final team, Team Arnell, Abby Van Winkle, Devin Newberry, Kylie DeBerg, and Haley Harward, playing with Duda Lisboa, my favorite player on the women's side internationally, and I think, as I said earlier, if you're drafting individual players, the number 1 overall woman that I would pick if you're drafting international players. So really interesting there to have some international players at the 5th person on these teams. And I would expect, just for consistency's sake, I wouldn't be surprised to see the men's teams get announced tomorrow and I see a similar... Ooh, let's make some predictions. How about that? Let's make some predictions. If they follow this same format, who are the 4 international men we expect to see as the 5th men on each team? As I said, Alex Rangieri would be very, very high on my list there. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Canadian. I know Schachter and Pickett are on the entry list for the Newport doubles, so maybe Sam Schachter in the mix. I don't know who else you would see there. Maybe one of the Capagrossos, one of the Grimalts maybe. Who else internationally would you expect to see come over? I don't know, but I think you can expect to see Alex Rangieri as one of the 4 men, if they continue that same format. So that's that, and we have one more thing to get to here today, and this is going to be one that I think could stir up a little bit of conversation. So stick with me here for a minute. I previewed it a little bit early in my intro. The Substack is all volleyball. The author is Larry Hamill. And Larry, I hope I'm getting your last name pronounced correctly there. It could be Hamill, it could be Hamill. But Larry is a journalist from the Chicago area, and he has covered beach volleyball here for a number of years. And I've gotten into it with him over the last couple of years because he has been a pretty outspoken critic of the AVP's management's decisions over the last couple of years. Been a pretty vocal critic of the league, vocal critic of the venues that they've chosen, the format. And so we'll start there. He's been a pretty vocal critic, and I think I haven't cited a lot of his reports because I think he injects a lot of his own opinions in there, which is totally his prerogative, and I give him credit for following the sport and getting his opinions out there. And he's not the only critic of the sport, and I've been critical of the AVP at times too. That said, Larry had the opportunity during the Chicago Championships, AVP Championships, to talk to AVP Commissioner Robert Corvino. And Larry wrote an article here on September 19th. Title of the article, you see there, An Old School, New Reality on the Sand, subheading, Pro Beach bracket events by necessity are likely to go retro as the AVP under Corvino concentrates on the league. Not a surprise here. We saw them in 2025 de-emphasize the tournaments. Only ran 2 Heritage Series events at the highest level, and really the only one that was a true high-level event with the stands, with a true double elim, was the Manhattan Beach Open. Even that AVP Huntington at the beginning of the season, it was a qualifier, was a single elim. It was a real stripped-down event there. And there are 2 tournaments that they ran for qualification. The 2 Huntington qualifiers before that were extremely stripped-down events. So not a huge surprise, but now we have some good reporting with some actual information from Robert Corvino. During multiple lengthy conversations I had with AVP Commissioner Bobby Corvino when the AVP League Champions were in Chicago early weekend, Corvino made it clear that the non-traditional team-oriented league series would be the AVP's focus moving forward. Bracket tournaments would be an afterthought. Bobby went so far as to call those events, quote, useless, end quote, and said that when he pitched them to potential TV partners, they were flat out not interested. So let's start there. Bobby Corvino thinks the traditional bracket-style events are useless. Now, that's a one-word quote out of a conversation that these two had. I think, reading the context of this conversation, Robert Corvino means that with the respect of selling to television. I think Bobby is very focused on selling this product on television. And when you look at the most successful sports in America, what's the most important business aspect of these leagues? The NFL, the NBA, it's the TV deal. So Bobby's looking at the AVP as an entity, and the most important product it can have is the television deal. And according to Bobby, the tournament style is quote-unquote useless. Bobby did emphasize more than once that he, quote, desires to, quote, create a legacy, end quote, as the, quote, person, quote, who saved beach volleyball in America. So that's a good sign. You love to see a guy there that's invested and wants to fix the sport, right? Later in the article, he related his experience in trying to sell ION, the television network, on televising the iconic Manhattan Beach Open in 2025 after the tournament's finals had lured what seemed to be an encouraging total average of viewership of 299,000 in 2024. Quote, ION didn't want it, Bobby said. Quote, they can show an old run of NCIS and draw 1 million versus 300,000 for the Manhattan Beach Open. Further on in the article, Larry talked about the tournaments playing a vital role, quote, playing a vital role in legitimizing the fans, the qualifying process for the league, and the only vehicle to identify and develop new stars. Corvino said he was aware of the AVP's obligation to do its part in player development process, but quickly noted he was unwilling to write a blank check, quote, write a blank check for the players, end quote. I think that is the meat and guts of the information about what we can expect here in 2025. So let's talk about it here for a minute. First of all, credit to Larry Hamill. I'd emphasize, and I'd strongly suggest if you're interested in this kind of stuff, the business of beach volleyball and the future of the AVP and the AVP League, to go check out Larry Hamill's Substack. It's all volleyball. Just search Larry Hamill or Substack all volleyball. Excellent article here by Larry. Get an opportunity to talk to Bobby Corvino and get us a little preview of what the 2026 season the AVP is going to look like. All that said, I have said multiple times that I do think that there's a place for the tournament style to be a part of this new league concept. And I do think that from a qualifying perspective, these tournaments are an awesome way to qualify players for the next season of your league. And I think the tournaments are a lot of fun. Now, I've said many times, and I continue to say, that I think that the league style is easier to sell to a television partner, obviously. That's what Bobby's saying right there. I think from a content perspective, I'm a content creator in the world of beach volleyball. I think the league style is easier to create content around. You have predictable matchups. You know who you're going to see on Sunday afternoon. You're going to know you're going to see on Sunday night, Saturday night, first and second, third, fourth matchups. I like the predictability of it, the week after week predictability of it. Friday night, Saturday night, get to a TV, AVP league's on. And I think some of the venues this year were iconic. Chicago, Oak Street Beach for the championship, spectacular. Central Park, New York, awesome venue. And Larry did mention he does think that we might see a few more temporary venues in 2026. Smaller venues, little temporary stadiums on the beach, hopefully in places where they can, sell all the tickets and make some money there and, present the product so it doesn't look like there's an empty stadium in the background, right? I think that's something that Bobby and the AVP did a lot better in 2025 than they did in 2024, and I expect them to see they continue to improve that in 2026. Put the product in venues where it looks good, looks exciting, looks full, looks like a good experience. I think that's part of the deal, part of the product. So I'm disappointed to see that tournaments are not being emphasized or being de-emphasized. I think old school volleyball fans are going to be very upset about that. I would love to see a hybrid style where you can have 5, 6, 7 tournaments that are feeders into your league. But if they can't sell them, they can't make money off them, how do you expect them to continue to do them, I guess? Maybe the AVP can partner with some of these independently run tournaments, like the Hermosa Beach Open now, run by Mark Palui, which has got a good reputation. The players love it, and a good, prize purse. Mark Palui doing a great job there, and he's year number 2 of an independently run Hermosa Beach Open. And you have those events all over the country. You got FUDs in Florida, you got Seaside up in Oregon there. So you do have some events there that I think independently run, maybe partnered with the AVP, could be good qualifying events for the league. But it's disappointing to see AVP at the highest level de-emphasizing those tournaments, and I'll be really interested to see what qualification looks like for next year. So I like the league. I'm a fan of the league. I'm excited to hear that they're really emphasizing that and trying to sell it to television partners. And then I'll say this. There are sports where the tournament style has been successful historically. Golf, tennis, I guess those would probably be the top 2. The top 2 sports where it's a tournament style sport and you have a season that kind of goes along with it, PGA championships at the end of the year, but all the events kind of lead up to it. Tennis, kind of a similar thing. You got your majors, and then you have the league that goes throughout the season. So is it possible to do, and I've said it before, a hybrid where you do have the tournaments that qualify for the league, that have a good prize purse, you televise those independently, and you have your league and the two kind of mesh together? I'd love to see them have that. And if we end up in a world where these tournaments become independently run, separate from the AVP, and we have a way to televise them and we can still watch them as fans, I guess that's a compromise. And I guess the AVP partnering up with those tournaments maybe is the way it turns out. But I think what you're hearing in this article here is that 8 to 10 big events a year sponsored by the AVP at the highest level is not the direction they're going. They're pushing the league, and these tournaments are getting stripped out. And it makes me wonder what the future is for Manhattan Beach Open as it relates to the AVP. We know if the AVP doesn't do something with it, the city or somebody else will step in and sponsor it. And even in the article, Larry asked Bobby about USA v. Beach stepping in and helping out with this process. And Corvino said, why don't they? So that tells you there's not a lot of conversations going on there between the AVP and USA v. Beach, and I think that's something that probably needs to happen. And I do think that a summit here of the organizers of Hermosa, the organizers of Seaside, the organizers of all these smaller independent tournaments, let's get them all together in the same space and see if we can figure out a way to make this work, a way to make it profitable, and a way to really start growing the sport. Because as much as I think the AVP League has shown some progress and growth, I think to do that at the expense of losing the Manhattan Beach Opens of the world, of losing the Hermosa Beach Opens of the world, of losing these top-tier tournaments that are really majors on the beach schedule, beach calendar, I think beach volleyball needs 3-4 majors each year, major tournaments, to go along with the league. And I think there's a way you can implement those two together and have them work as a hybrid. But to Bobby's point, why is the AVP going to sink a bunch of money into those 4 majors if they can't sell it? If Ion or CW would rather run an NCIS and get 1 million viewers. So I get it. It's a financial decision. They're making decisions that are in the financial best interest of the thing continuing. So that's what they got to do, and I totally understand that. I just hope that we can figure out a way to make a hybrid of those two things work, because to see those tournaments go away entirely would be a real disappointment for me. And this is coming from a guy who has been supportive of this new concept league from the start. So that's all I got to say about that. And that's all I got to say here tonight. We went much, much longer than I thought we would. Over an hour here on Bet the Beach Live. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate you. We're back in a couple of weeks. That will be after qualification ends for World Champs. So we'll know the teams. We can start doing a preview for World Champs coming up here in November. And we can talk a bunch more stuff, volleyball, hang out, chat, chop it up. Until then, I appreciate you. I enjoy you. I love you. Give me a follow. Give me a like and subscribe. It actually does help out. Like it, subscribe it, recommend it to a friend. Follow me on all the social media platforms. It's at Bet the Beach. And with that, I say good night. Have a pleasant tomorrow, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya.
Wake up, sunshine, let's go play. Beach volleyball is the way. Sand in my toes, sky so blue. Fun in the sun, just me and you. Bounce on the beach, set the ball high. Smiles all around and we reach for the sky. Surfs up and laughter's in the breeze. Join the podcast if you please. Having in, watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here. Wake up, sunshine, let's go play. Beach volleyball is the way. Sand in my toes, sky so blue. Fun in the sun, just me and you. Bounce on the beach, set the ball high. Smiles all around and we reach for the sky. Surfs up and laughter's in the breeze. Join the podcast if you please. Dive and dig, watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here. Watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here.